There's just so many bangers. Even in like the new series, like episode 1 has the. I was just talking with my nephew Ethan, who's older than
Phantom
me.
Menace.
In Phantom Menace, you remember the Duel of the Fates? Everybody knows it. The da
Yeah.
da da da.
It gets you hyped up for the fight.
It's like even in the worst movie, it's got all these bangers.
And
like,
you know, because I think, and that's what it did for the sequel trilogy too. Mm-hmm. And those movies are. We'll get to that at another date, maybe.
Maybe one day, but
probably
not.
Not
on this podcast. All right, welcome to the Perfect Movie Podcast.
What's up?
My name is Michael.
Kalen.
And we are two best friends that have just been, watching movies.
Long time.
We love movies. And we took it upon ourselves and we thought, maybe one day there'll be an alien invasion. And they'll come down and they'll be in their craft and they'll gather all the humans up. And they'll be like, you guys don't seem like you're worthy. You guys seem like you're kind of trash. Except they'll be like, gloop, 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 gloop. But it'll be the robot voice. It'll be like, you are not worthy. And then we'll come from the back. And the whole idea of this podcast is we're going to compile a list of perfect movies. And we're answering the question with each movie that is our topic. Is this a perfect movie? We're going to compile them. We're going to put them on a list. So when the aliens come down and they say we're not worthy, we're going to have a big-ass scroll full of all the most perfect movies.
Throw that shit down.
Yes. We'll be like Bill and Ted, but we have no skill. I mean, Bill and Ted really didn't have any skills either. We're more diverse than Bill and Ted. We'll just throw it down. We'll just throw the scroll down and be like, look at all these amazing movies. Sit down, pull up a couch, you 8-tentacled freak, and let's watch this shit.
And then hopefully
they'll save
leave us alone.
Yeah, they'll be like, they'll watch The Empire Strikes Back and they'll be like, you know what? I can relate to this.
And then they'll do one last probing.
All right, bend over, show your butts. All right, and our topic this first episode, because we're both big Star Wars fans, been Star Wars fans since we were...
Used to be.
Well, the thing
I don't know in this current state I can call myself a Star Wars fan. I think at heart I will always love Star Wars and it'll always be a big part of my life. As of now, I guess we'll see. But it's not aging too well. That's what I'll say.
Interesting. Are you talking about the new movies and the new stuff, or are you even talking about watching
I think
this?
I just see the slow tarnishing of a legacy, and it's disappointing to me. Yeah. And so it kind of just like a little bit of your heart breaks each time. And it's like, I don't think I could take too much more of this heartbreak. So maybe I'll watch something else.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'd still say I love Star Wars in concept. I mean, I definitely have I think it's more at this point, which I think most people do, we're not old, but we're creeping up towards 30.
We're up there. We're getting up there.
I think it's at this point is more of a wishful. Why can't I think of the word? When you love something from your childhood.
Nostalgic.
Yes, yeah. It's just mostly just nostalgia for another time.
Yeah,
I mean,
like all things, good things come to an end eventually, and unfortunately, the good things were 40, almost 50 years ago. So
yeah,
but I mean, like you said though. The impact, I guess, it's made on my life, that's what's going to be special or always be special to me. Yeah. And just the story and the concept, I mean, it's fucking cool. I mean, wizards in space and light swords and shit. I mean, that's awesome.
Did you ever have lightsaber fights in your backyard with people?
If you didn't, your childhood was probably
like, who were garbage. You? And we were watching the prequels. Those movies were dog shit
They were
and mostly boring.
Okay, but I'll get to that later. But the thing about the prequels back then, that was the shit. And you saw all the flashy moves and the highly choreographed shit, and you're like, wow, this...
They were like, let's make a movie for kids, but also make it a boring movie about politics.
I remember this. I had a neighbor, and he was a big Star Wars geek, and so he used to bring out all his Star Wars toys. He used to have buckets of them. He used to just flex them to me like the whole time.
Check this out.
And I had one little box of just a couple Star Wars. I had Darth Vader, I had Anakin and shit. I was like, this is my stuff. He was like, look at my shit though. Come play with my stuff. He had the Slave One and stuff, and yeah, those were good times. So.
Oh yeah, not Slave One. Slave One canceled. I don't know what they call it now.
What's it called? It's just called a ship.
It's called Boba's ship. So anyways, for this episode we are watching The Empire Strikes Back, which I think is the consensus best Star Wars movie.
I think not only the best Star Wars film, I think it's regarded as one of the better films to be made. In a technical point of view.
It's definitely on, like, I mean, I haven't read the list, but, you know, when they make, like, a top 100 all-time list or whatever, like...
It's up there.
It's one of those, you know, pinnacle films of, you know...
But this movie, like how you were saying about Episode 4, this was technically not supposed to work either. I know that George Lucas, in filming this, he was a little nervous about getting back into Star Wars because of the emotional and, like, mental toll that the first film had on him. And so, like, honestly, I think the reason why this film is good is because of, like, the amount of stuff that he didn't do in regards to the plot. Yeah. And in regards to the filmmaking aspect.
George Lucas is not the writer-director like he was in the first one. I'm sure he had he's a writer on the script. But
this is written by Leigh Brackett and Lawrence Kasdan.
Yeah, and the director is...
Director is Irvin Kershner.
Who, like, I looked at his list of movies, and there's some notable things.
What does he have on there?
Let me look. Let me pull it up.
Because I'm not real familiar with.
I'm not familiar with him either. He seemed kind of like a hired gun. Like when they went out and hired Ron Howard to fix, quote unquote, the Solo movie. It seems like that. Like
they hired him for it.
Ron Howard for Solo.
Oh, I thought you meant Kershner.
Like he's just like he's been directing movies since like the 50s. Like there's these old 50s movies that are on his list, and then stuff that you might like know, like Never Say Never Again. He like did a James Bond right after this. He did RoboCop 2 later in the 90s. Like he just seems kind of like a hired gun filmmaker. Like I'm not the kind of expert that could name like Face in the Rain.
Right. Well, I mean, I guess
like I don't know if these are good 60s movies or bad 60s movies.
Well, he made this work.
Right.
So
seems like a guy. Seems like a guy that you hired to make.
So I don't know if you want to get it right into like the filmmaking aspect of this, because I think what stands out for me the most in this is just the way it looks. I mean, this is 40 years ago, and this still looks amazing. I mean, I'm watching this on a Blu-ray, and I mean these wide shots are just freaking gorgeous, and yeah, it looks great to this day. I mean, practical sets, practical effects, everything looks dirty and lived in, and I love that about Star Wars. Yeah. And that's what the newer stuff is missing, is that grime and that grit of the original films, which made the world so much more grounded and like realized, and that's what I loved about the original trilogy.
I think, well, first off, there's no version of this that doesn't have the George Lucas re-release splooge all over it. Like, you know, when they go to the Cloud City, and it's got like the very late 90s like CG in the background.
And that's the stuff that stands out the most.
Yeah, and I don't really, like, I've never seen the original cuts of these. You can't really get a hold of them. So I don't know what's, besides stuff that's like obviously
I want to say that
CGI.
They did a re-release recently of like the original cuts. I might be wrong about that, but I remember there was talks about them re-releasing the originals, but I mean, it doesn't really matter to me regardless.
I agree. Like, I don't actually think the new movies, I think we're gonna have to step back and stop talking about the new movies for a little bit, since this is the Perfect Movie Podcast. But I think the new movies do a pretty good job of aping the look and feel. Like, I kind of disagree with you there, but that's the thing. It's kind of mostly just that. It's bringing back the you know, the aesthetic and maybe some of the ideas, but it doesn't really know what to do with it.
Right.
And then ultimately, once you've watched all 3 movies, I
guess mainly I'm like calling out the prequels for this, since everything was done behind a green
screen. The prequels were like George Lucas doesn't want to go anywhere, doesn't want to go to location.
I found out about the CGI.
I found out about blue screens, and we're doing fucking everything with blue screens.
It's actually kind of astonishing how like at least probably 80% of that film is.
Well, here's the thing. The one thing about Star Wars, these Star Wars New Hope, that's part of why it became a new thing, and this Star Wars, is that they are special effects, like, they were breaking new ground in special effects with what they're doing with models and what they're doing with matte paintings, they're just they're really next level with that stuff. And I mean, he did that again with the prequels. Like, I think that's one of the things he likes to do
is try to reinvent the wheel, and
find new technology and advance stuff. Like, but
but we've seen at that point when the prequels came out, we've seen CGI before.
It looks like people were just standing in front of like Windows like wallpaper half the time.
I mean, like, watch Jurassic Park, where that came out in 1995, and like the T-Rex scene still holds up to this day. Like, CGI was done right back then, you know. As far as that goes, I think with this film in particular, like I was saying, with like the dirt and the grime, I don't know, everything just seems so, it's like it's got this cheap quality to it, but it's not cheap at the same time. It's like, I don't know, it's like watching Neverending Story, or, I don't know, I guess it's that nostalgic feeling, and then that's what we're getting back to, is like the nostalgia aspect.
And I think a lot of people, even though I was born in 95, I did not grow up in the 80s. There is something about 80s and 90s stuff where it's like got all these charm. Big sets, and there's all these, instead of CGI, it's puppet Yoda, and there's just all this stuff that's more...
Well, there's real work going into the filmmaking, and I think that's what's the beauty of filming, and you can really show originality with
I don't think it's a matter of real work, but I think it's a matter of a lot of stuff, the way they shoot it now, because like there's plenty of work going into all the CGI that goes in all these movies,
right?
But a lot of the shooting, and actually the new Star Wars, I think, did a good job of this most part. I think it's more a Marvel thing where they'll be like, all right, we're gonna shoot this scene and we'll do the effects later. Like they're not considering it before they do it, and then it comes out and end up looking kind of poopy because they didn't,
Well, when you actually have it goes a long way to actually have your actors in a full
have a set there,
and so they're not just standing in front of someone going, "What am I doing? Void. I guess I'm supposed to swing this lightsaber." No, like I'm on Dagobah and I'm with Yoda, and look, the little fucking puppets right there, and it looks cool. I don't know.
All right, I think we're gonna go through the synopsis. So this is the story of Empire. We open. The rebels have just blown up the Death Star, but their base has been found. They got to leave Yavin 4, and the Empire, I think it's about 3 years later, they're looking around for more, looking around for the new base. And we see the Empire shoot some droids down onto the ice planet of Hoth. And there we see out on the Tauntauns, which, speaking of like good puppets. Speaking of wontons, I'm fucking hungry. No, just speaking of like the tangible things that make Star Wars great in the effects thing. It's like sometimes it's a puppet, sometimes it's a miniature, sometimes it's like
a claymation. Yeah. It's that charm, and it's like something that can't really be replicated nowadays. I don't want to sound like that guy where it's like, bring back the old times, bring back the old way of doing things. But it's just like, you can't deny this was like a golden era for filmmaking.
For sure. So Luke's patrolling near the base. He sees something hit the ground. He's like, Han, I think I saw a meteor hit the ground. I'm going to go investigate it. And then he's knocked out by the Wampa.
The Wampa. I just could picture like everybody sitting in a room and coming up with these names for these creatures.
George Lucas came up with all these names. Every stupid like Star Wars name
is called a Wampa.
This is George Lucas, 1000%. And then right after that, he gets the plot download from Obi-Wan where he's like, Luke, you will travel to the Dagobah system. Which, like, watching it again, I'm like, that's kind of a clumsy way to get him on his fucking plot line. Yeah. Is have him get bonked on the head and then just the ghost shows up.
It's fine.
As I watch this again as like an adult, because I don't think I've really watched this movie since I was like a teenager, probably. I think some of those seams I'm starting to notice.
Yes.
Where it's like, He just kind of got handed the plot right now, and he doesn't even like question it.
Exposition guy.
He's not like, maybe I'm just suffering hypothermia and like having delusions. He's like, nah, I gotta go to this Dagobah place.
So he gets the message from Obi-Wan.
Right.
Then it cuts to the base, right?
Yeah, and Han's like, I gotta go. Look, Jabba's on my ass.
Bitching at Leia the whole time.
Which, might I add, Leia and Han, their whole... I mean, we'll get to it a little later, but Han seems a little pushy.
It's a pretty toxic relationship.
He seems a little sexual harassment-y. Yeah. Like, Rebel HR, like, luckily he's a contractor and he's just gonna leave.
Hey, it's the 80s.
It's the 80s, babe, and just slap her on the ass.
What I will say, though, it's actually like watching these older films. It's refreshing to see Harrison Ford in a film where he actually gives a fuck.
Where he's not just high.
Where he's not just like phoning it in the entire time. It's very refreshing.
They couldn't even get him to get a haircut to come back for episode 9. He was like, no, I'm filming this movie with the fucking dog and I got long hair. I'm not cutting my hair to come back and do this scene.
He just looks like somebody's grandpa. Everything post Return of the Jedi, he's like, fuck.
Harrison Ford has not cared to be in a movie in like 20 fucking years.
No.
Probably more. Probably since like The Fugitive, whenever that came out.
The Fugitive. Oh my god. Is that the movie where he's like, get off my plane?
Yeah.
Okay.
Anyways, so eventually Leia's like, they're like, Luke hasn't returned. He's like, maybe he came down by the south entrance or whatever. And then he checks over there and Luke's not there. So he goes out and he goes to find him. We cut to Luke. He's hung upside down in the Wampa lair.
Can we talk real quick about where they filmed Hoth at?
Yeah, I don't know.
Is that a set? I feel like I probably should have did some research on this before we did this. But I mean,
you asked the question like you had an answer.
No, I'm asking you because I'm thinking here's the expert over here.
I mean,
he's got the synopsis right in his hand.
I mean,
like,
they don't tell me the location.
It might have been like New Zealand or something.
Film Hoth scenes. Let's see. In Norway. So they were real deal fucking cold out there.
Okay.
It wasn't a set.
Boom. Again, it's like go on location. Yeah. Film your scene. It's more believable.
Yeah.
It's great.
So Han leaves and he's out in the base, night's coming, they have to shut the doors. Also, C-3PO, so fucking annoying this whole time.
I don't really understand like the C-3PO fans or how he became so popular because you just want to punch him in his face the whole time. Like,
no,
he's so irritating. Everybody hates him the entire time. It's like, I guess that's the point of his character, but at the same time, it's like
he's somewhat lovable. But there's a line later where where Han's like, will you just shut him off?
Yeah, and they literally shut him off.
He's like speaking for the whole audience. Like, please, will you shut up now?
And I think R2 is great because you can't hear what he's saying.
R2 says there's about a 0.2% chance of
survival.
He's known to be wrong.
Shut the fuck up.
Shut up, Anthony Daniels. Fucking prick. Nobody cares.
Yeah, he is a prick too. So it's justified.
So anyways, I had this backwards. So apparently he sees it later. He sees the vision of Obi-Wan after he cuts himself free. Luke cuts himself free from the Wampa, fucking chops his arm off, says deuces, runs out into the snow, passes out, and that's where he gets the DLC download of his next mission. Luke,
he gets the next quest line.
Go to the Dagobah system. There you will train with Master Yoda.
So Luke the whole time is thinking like, this is gonna be a badass Jedi.
Yeah, he's like, this dude's about to be 6'8", fucking ripped, gonna be sick. Eventually, Han Solo miraculously finds Luke out in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, that's not really explained. He just kind of just showed up. It's fine.
I mean, whatever. Like, who cares? He found him. He went looking and he found him. He knew generally where he was at. Let's say he knew generally where his patrol was or whatever.
Yeah, he knew the routes, man.
So anyways, and then he has to cut open the tauntaun to keep them warm, which comes with the great line. He's like, I thought they smelled bad on the outside.
It's classic lines, man. We just got some classic lines going on here. I mean, this is why this movie is memorable.
The the snow speeders go out in the morning. They go and they find them.
Oh, you forgot. Did you tell the part where he cut the tauntaun open, shoves Luke in there?
Yeah, we just said. I thought they smelled bad.
Well, I knew that, but you didn't.
Yeah, he cuts them open.
That was the most gnarly part of the entire film.
That's true. Luke probably smelled really bad.
Yeah, he probably smelled bad.
Yeah. When he gets kissed on the mouth by his sister.
Yeah. Incest.
So I wonder, since we're already there, we jumped ahead a little bit. So he comes back to the base. They have their big battle, right? No, wait. Let me actually read this. So we're back on the, the probe droid, which is what Luke blew up, sends the signal. The Empire knows that the base, they received a signal in the Hoth system. I think Vader chokes somebody out.
No, not yet.
Not yet?
I don't think so. But he's real the boss in that bitch. So he comes through and he's like, y'all better get this shit together, man. I'm gonna fuck somebody up. Vader is a boss, man. Like he's got a commanding presence and he's scary.
Yeah.
That's what you want from your cartoon villain.
I mean, it's almost like I think his body count is higher for people on his own side.
Yeah, he's just choking dudes left and right.
The
turnover rate is crazy.
You don't want to be right under Darth Vader. The turnover rate is crazy. You get choked out every other week. It's terrible.
There's no quitting in that job. You just get choked out.
So, the first person he chokes out is after they get to Hoth. He's like, you got out too close to the planet, so now they know. They're on high alert. And he chokes out Admiral Ozell and then Captain Piet. You are
Piet.
Whatever he says. He's like, you're the man now. You're the Admiral. Let's get ready for our attack. So the speeders. So, eventually there are the AT-AT walkers on the ground. They're doing their ground assault. Snow speeders fly in.
Let's talk about this scene for a second.
I don't really know what that was at first, because at first they're like shooting at them, and then they're like, wait, we have the tow cable plan.
Well, I mean, they're just trying to defend at that point.
I guess.
Imagine going to a theater in 1980 and watching this. And how your mind would be blown watching this scene.
Yeah.
It's pretty... I mean... the effects now, watching it now, it doesn't age too well. Especially some of the interior shots of when you're in the snow speeder. I mean, it still looks good for the time, but I'm just imagining putting myself in a movie theater in 1980 and watching that.
I mean, Star Wars was like the biggest thing ever at that point.
Yeah.
And then they sort of topped themselves again with their intro action scene. There was kind of an intro action scene in the first Star Wars, but not really.
It was the big reveal of the Star Destroyer.
Yeah. So I think I'm sure it was pretty mind blowing. I mean, I still remember watching it as a kid and thinking this was really cool and this is one of the best parts. When playing the you ever played the Star Wars arcade game in a Chuck E. Cheese?
Yes.
Where you did that mission?
Remember this. I more so remember this in Battlefront 2.
Oh, yeah, but in that one you would do the actual
you do the tow cable.
You would do the tow cable thing. You would fly around.
And you'd be on the ground, and it was pretty epic.
So eventually, they're just trying to buy time to escape, and the rebels eventually all are finding a way to escape. And Han is fixing his ship, and it keeps not working. And I like how in episode 4 they're like, this is a real piece of shit. Your ship really sucks. And then episode 5 it doesn't work at all. The whole fucking movie. Yeah. The Millennium Falcon does not work. And that's I think that's the only movie where they really do that. Everybody's always like, what a hunk of junk. It comes back in the sequel trilogy and they're all like, what a hunk of junk. But it's actually really badass. But in this movie, it just doesn't work.
It just doesn't work. And it's actually a piece of shit.
It just, their whole arc is based on his ship not working. Because they can't jump to hyperspace.
It's the Millennium Falcon. It's the coolest ship ever.
So everybody's escaping. Luke goes off on his X-Wing and goes to the Dagobah system. And Han and Leia and C-3PO and Chewbacca all have to hide in the asteroid field, which is another great set piece when they're flying through the asteroids.
It's kind of amazing how they did that. But here's the thing, bringing up what you were saying about how the George Lucas reshoots or like quote unquote reshoots where he just basically CGI's a scene. I'm kind of getting to that point where like I don't really see what's from the original and what's not, like especially in this scene. Because you see like the shots of like the giant asteroids coming at them and everything.
I think that's all in there. I think that's all original. I think mostly it's like the extra, like what George Lucas added was stupid shit. Like when they go to Cloud City, there's like this pan that's a bunch of like CG stuff, and then it cuts to like Leia waiting in the room after they've been captured. Yeah. And it's like stuff like that. Like I don't know, maybe if they tried to upgrade it somehow.
I know there's probably a list floating around somewhere of what he did. Yeah. But like
I think that's all mostly original. And when they're like when they like fly and it goes that's a classic maneuver. When it goes sideways through that like canyon on the asteroid and the X-Wings all blow up, like I think that's all
original. I mean, that looked great, and I think that was all miniatures too.
Yeah, that was all original miniatures, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. And it was really like, I mean, it's a great set piece, and they find a cave and they hide in there.
But the cave turns out to not be a cave.
Yeah, it turns out to be a giant space slug, but that we don't really have.
We're not at that part yet.
We don't really find that out for a while.
Does this go right to Dagobah after that?
I'm looking at this
because
deeper in the field.
I feel like this movie is like way longer than it is.
Yeah,
it feels long, but it's really not that long as far as like.
Yeah, Luke and R2. They go. Yeah, after they land, I think that's when they cut to Luke and R2 landing on Dagobah. They kind of crash land. R2 gets swallowed by something underwater that we never see and gets spit out.
Just some creature. I think it was a little callback to the first movie when they were in the garbage.
The junk alien. And then he runs into this little booger-shaped dude named Yoda. Well, he doesn't know it's Yoda yet. It's just a little booger-shaped guy who says,
Yoda's all sounding like Scooby-Doo. Like, calm your ass down, bro, please.
And then he's like, yeah. And then little dude's like, I know of this Yoda, but you should come over to eat first. And then
they go eat some shit.
Yeah, they go
some literal shit.
They eat some bullshit, and then he starts talking to Obi-Wan. Yoda does. They have a little dialogue, and then I just know the scene ends with Luke being like, "I'm not afraid," and then Yoda's like, "You will be."
That's a very powerful scene, as far as like just the whole. Well, I mean, I guess all the scenes on Dagobah is all a life lesson. You want to talk about
subverting expectations? Yes. It's putting little tiny Yoda being like the wise and old Jedi Master.
Right.
Like, I think we're used to it now as an idea, especially now that we have Baby Yoda. But like, the idea, I think everybody watching Star Wars in 1983 expected something completely different than this little green man being the wise wizard.
It goes back to the thing of like the Force, the idea of the Force, that anybody can use the Force. Right. And they get that so wrong and everything else. I mean, again, we'll get to it later. There's a lot of stuff to unpack. This scene in general, I really love this scene. I think the whole Dagobah thing is like a coming of age for Luke and him like realizing what the Force is and realizing what his destiny is and what he's there to do and the idea of the Force, and it's great.
They're looking for the Falcon. It's parked in the asteroid, and this is where Han decides to sexually harass Leia.
Again.
So this time I guess it works. Like in Star Wars Episode 4, I get the idea why they liked each other. In this one, this is the one thing that like really annoyed me in like 2022 Vision is like Han Solo's like a prick and like really forceful, and like in the scene where they kiss, she's like, "Stop doing that. Don't touch me. No." Yeah. And then they kiss.
It's like, and I'm like, take a hint, guy. Shit wouldn't fly in 2022.
I'm pulling on my collar. Ugh.
What if that wasn't even in the script? It was just Harrison Ford.
Harrison Ford just being horny. Well, I mean, I think they were all weird to Carrie Fisher. They made her not wear a bra for the entire filming of Episode 4. Yes. Why? They were like, you can't wear a bra.
Okay. Sure.
Yeah.
I didn't think
when she's wearing the sheer white gown thing.
Oh.
The whole time.
I guess I never noticed. I mean,
watch it back. You'll see.
Okay. I have a reason to go back.
Tatas are free. And an Imperial officer comes up to Vader, and they're like, "You have a call from the Emperor." The Emperor is on the fucking beeper. He says, Darth Vader. He tells Darth Vader that the person who blew up the Death Star is Luke Skywalker.
So this is a reshot, that scene, at least in the versions that we're watching, because the Palpatine that you see is the Palpatine from Episode 3. And I think this scene works better than the original. I don't know if you've ever seen the original. It's like Palpatine has like a cyborg face, or it's something really weird. It's like his part of his eye is covered. It kind of looks like the Terminator eye. It's very strange. And it was like the earlier concept for Palpatine.
Oh, so they like re-edited in.
Yeah.
Okay.
And this is one of the scenes that I think like actually does a service to the story and a service to the overall narrative.
What's his name? Ian McDiarmid? Is that
He's fantastic.
He's great at that character.
Yeah, he hams it up the entire time, and he's great.
This is the only time he shows up in this movie.
Yeah. We don't get a full reveal
and he
until
says,
Return of the Jedi. So
Darth Vader suggests that if Luke could be turned, you become a great ally to the Imperial cause. And the Emperor says, "Can it be done?" And he says, "He will join us or die."
Man, it's just like every line of dialogue that James Earl Jones has, it's just he nails it each time. Just some good stuff.
So this is when the Minox come and attack the ship, and they go to clean it off, and then they figure out that they're living and that they parked in a giant like meteorite space slug. They escape, and then Han pulls a pretty sick maneuver, but also I'm like, what do y'all think happened? Where he flies like right in front of the bridge, and then they're like, "He's not on any of our scanners. We can't find him anywhere." And it's like, well, where could he have gone? You know, like, and he's just attached on like the backside of some part of the ship.
Yeah, they're like, well, we should just head back.
And they're like, guess he's fucking gone. Well, shit. It's like in like a stealth game when the guards come and you're like hanging on a ledge right underneath them.
And they're like, oh, I thought I saw something.
Huh. Or what, like in Assassin's Creed when you hop in the bush.
I think it's pretty well known that stormtroopers are pretty incompetent. So
these aren't the stormtroopers. These are like the officers.
I mean anybody that works for the Empire, they're trash.
That's why they're all getting choked out.
Yeah, Vader wouldn't have to choke y'all out if y'all just did things right. You know.
And then the fleet gets ready to leave in hyperspace, and then he like unlatches from the side of the ship. Han Solo does, and the Millennium Falcon, and they kind of float away. And he's like, "I have an idea. I have a friend in a system nearby. We don't have a hyperdrive. We're gonna go
see black guy.
Yeah, we're gonna go meet our first black character."
Yay, progressive! Yay!
We cut back to Dagobah. Luke's like running around doing backflips. He's swinging on.
He's been training for 2 days and he's already
maxed out. This is why I couldn't get behind. Now we're talking about the sequels again, but people were like, Rey shouldn't be able to do shit because she didn't really get trained. I'm like, Luke didn't really get trained. Luke was there for like 3 days. And
unless there was like a time lapse and we just didn't know about it.
Because they were only because the other characters are all doing stuff at the same time too. So it seems like it's only been a few days.
Right.
Like they weren't on Cloud City for weeks. There's nothing that makes it seem like they were there for a while. It seems like they just got there. They're hanging out, and pretty soon.
I mean, I guess when you're hanging out with Master Yoda, you know, you get that shit down packed.
Yeah, that's the stuff that I would hear, and I'd just be like, I think y'all just don't like women.
She's a Mary Sue.
I'm like, yeah, like we've done this before. He cuts his shit short. So then Luke has a vision of Han and Leia in danger. Oh wait, I've skipped over the cave scene where he goes into like the dark side tree.
Oh yeah,
and he has a vision of Vader, and he brings out his lightsaber and he cuts his head off.
And shows his own face.
It's Luke under the thing.
And everybody in the theater was like, "What?
Foreshadowing? Question mark?
What does this mean?" Oh, guys, you're in for a treat.
So they arrived at Cloud City. Lando's like, "You motherfucker, you shouldn't have showed up here."
He's like, "Motherfucker." Billy D,
he's
man.
Like, "You got a lot of balls showing up here." And then he's like, fakes like he's gonna punch him, and then he hugs him. He's like, "Welcome back, old friend."
He's just a cool cat.
And then he looks at Leia, and he just fucking undresses her with his eyes.
He's like, "I'm gonna get in that later." Don't you worry, baby.
I'm just going back to like, man, women were treated terribly in old movies. Not even, it's like pretty recent thing where we stopped treating women just
This is
like
not that long
ago.
ago. It's really not.
I mean, I remember I watched Ocean's 11, which is what, like a 15, 20-year-old movie?
That was in the early 2000s, yeah.
And like, oh my God, the way they treat Julia Roberts like property made me so deeply uncomfortable.
Oh, yeah.
So like, we only started getting better at this pretty recently. But yeah, Billy D's like, and Leia's like, okay. I got a bad feeling about this place.
She's like, I don't know if I'm there yet with
Maybe
your
that's
kind.
Why she fell in love with Han, because she was like, this motherfucker is way creepier. Like Han doesn't at least like look me up and down.
I think every man in the Star Wars universe is probably a creep on the low.
They all are?
Yeah.
I mean,
well, Luke is okay.
We skip past Luke. Leia kisses Luke to make Han jealous and looks very self-satisfied. And when Luke leaves Dagobah, which is right after this, you remember he's like, Obi-Wan's like, this is our last hope. And Yoda's like, there is another.
There's another. Foreshadowing.
And I just wonder, I'm assuming not because they had him kiss, because it'd be really fucked up if they were foreshadowing a brother-sister thing.
Yeah, and
then had them make out.
Scene.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it wasn't like a full-on like make-out section. Yeah, I mean, it was a quick kiss, but you know.
Still, you don't kiss your sister on the lips.
No, it's kind of weird.
We don't really do
But again, it's the 80s.
Incest, it was in. Cocaine and incest. That's what the 80s was about, apparently. And serial killers. That's what
80s sound like a great time.
So anyways, the Han and Leia and 3PO and Chewbacca. Maybe this is a time to pause and say, let's appreciate Chewbacca. He's maybe the most likable thing.
Well, I mean, because he can't say anything to make you dislike him. So
he's he's just fine. The smartest puppy ever, basically.
Yeah. He
can like fly the ship and fix it. And is
I always found that kind of weird. Was like he's this really intelligent alien and he's fixing ships, but then Luke goes and scratches him behind the ear,
and he's like, yeah.
"You're still a fucking dog." And Chewbacca the whole time is just saying, "I'm a person too."
But only Han can really understand him, so he's just keeping him down.
That's what's great about it.
So things start going left in the Cloud City. C-3PO gets blown the fuck up because secretly Vader's already waiting there with the stormtroopers. Remember, he goes in that side room and he's like, oh my! And he gets blown up. And Chewie fixes 3PO when he finds him.
Yeah, that's like a whole subplot.
That's a whole subplot. Lando's double-crossing, conspiring with the Empire to give over Han and Leia. It's all a big...
What was the reason for him doing that again?
It's all a big trap to get Luke to come there, and
well,
I guess
what did he gain?
They were mostly, I think they were mostly just like, I mean, Empire was just gonna strong arm them and try to like take over the city.
Oh,
and so they were basically just gonna be like, we'll leave you be if you do this thing for us. Let you continue doing our own thing, and we won't bother you.
Did they have a conversation about that? I don't.
That's not on screen. I think that's just kind of implied. I think he says it at some point when they're escaping, like when Lando's escaping with Leia.
What's the planet called? Bespin?
Yeah.
Okay.
And she's like, you're a traitor. We don't really like you. And he's like, I did what I needed to do. Like they were gonna take over the city and make things miserable for everyone if I didn't do this. But turns out they're just gonna do whatever the hell they want because that's how Darth Vader rolls.
That's how he rolls. He's a boss.
He doesn't need to hold up his end of the deal because fuck you.
Boy, he got the Force. I'll choke everybody in this room. Stop playing with me.
Choke a motherfucker out. Han's getting tortured. They put him on the little thing. I guess he can't see. They like fold him up in like a panini press.
Oh yeah. Yeah, they hot ironed him.
Mm-hmm.
Waffle maker.
And then it gets to the scene where they got to carbon freeze Han, which is just a test. Because that's his plan to do to Luke. He wants to carbon freeze him and bring him back to the Emperor. So they test it out on Han. They don't know whether he's going to die or not. Then we come to one of our other famous Star Wars lines where Leia, after being harassed for half the movie by various men, is like, I love you. And Han Solo goes, I know.
It works perfect for his character.
I mean, it is perfect. Rewatching this again, I can't really ship their. I can't like.
You can't really ship it.
I can't ship the relationship. Seems toxic.
You know, it doesn't really seem like it was earned. It was just taken.
I think they. Yeah, that's exactly what it was.
Oh, we forgot. They also introduced. Did they introduce Boba in the scene?
Yeah, Boba Fett's in. I think he's in an earlier scene because he's like, he's not worth. This better work because he's not worth as much to me. He's only worth something to me alive. And he was with the other bounty hunters and stuff. Yes.
We
skipped over the part where they hired all the bounty hunters.
And Boba Fett, he's cool as fuck. Sitting there not saying shit really.
Yeah, he's pretty cool. He's pretty chill. I see why people buy action figures of him. Like
but it's funny because he doesn't do anything the entire time.
He really doesn't do much except be like, I gotta bring him back to Jabba.
And then he gets
Boba's gonna bring him back to Jabba because the whole reason Han was gonna leave was because he has a debt to pay to Jabba.
Yes.
I don't even know if we came to it like.
I don't remember either. I guess you'll have to figure that out in post.
We'll have to edit around it. Full disclosure, we just took a break. So we're going to come back. And before we get to our third act of the story.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
I'm keeping that in.
Still strong there, buddy.
That's right. We're going to take a break and have just a funeral for Star Wars. Because recently... In fact, the final episode I think comes out next Wednesday.
Yes.
Just the stupidest Star Wars product I've ever seen.
Probably one of the worst
pieces of media I've ever consumed.
I can't wrap my head around how bad it is.
Is the Obi-Wan Kenobi show on Disney Plus.
Oh my god.
And it's really just like a 5.56 between the eyes of Star Wars, just a fucking kill shot. And I can't emphasize how much I loathe it and disdain watching it and don't know why anybody bothered if this was the product that they were going to end up with.
It literally makes me physically ill when I'm watching it.
I can't stand watching.
It's so bad, but like okay, so
you have
right
some
here,
quotes?
I got some quotes that I'm going to read from the show. Grand Inquisitor, he is not yours to find. We are past this. Third sister, I will not warn you again. You will forget this fixation with Kenobi, or we will relieve you of your duties. Is that clear? Yes, Grand Inquisitor, consider him forgotten.
You know what I don't understand is aren't these people like isn't Darth Vader their boss? And doesn't Darth Vader really want to find Obi-Wan Kenobi?
It's why do they give a fuck about
why do they care? It was like they just wrote it like we need drama, so they're gonna like oppose her for some reason, but it's not clear at all. And there's only one episode left, and I don't think they can make that clear in that time.
No.
Like, why do they care? Why do they keep talking about like her methods are too much? I'm like, Darth Vader just showed up and snapped like 6 civilians' necks
like
just
to do
favor.
it. We want favor from Vader, but it's like he's gonna snap y'all necks eventually. It's like, come on, bro.
I don't get it.
It's the dumbest, like, segue into a plot. It's the stupidest fucking thing. Okay, this is Obi-Wan talking. Tika, if you're going to steal my parts and then sell them back to me, could you at least clean them first, as a courtesy? Tika, and this says in quotations, in Jawaese, cleaning costs extra. It's just like, the dialogue and the way that shit is just like said in this is so bad. I can't wrap my head around like what the writers were thinking when they were making this.
It seems to me like somebody wrote like a lighthearted adventure, and then somebody else was like, actually, we're gonna film this like Schindler's List, and like those two people didn't talk. Like somebody wrote like a kind of lighthearted adventure about like Leia gets kidnapped and Obi-Wan, and it's gonna look like fucking Spy Kids, and like and it's gonna be kind of like tongue-in-cheek swashbuckling. But then the director or somebody was like, no, this is gonna be dead fucking serious, and like they didn't talk before then. Like somebody wrote the script. You're dying on that.
Yeah, drink's a little strong there, buddy.
It's like they didn't talk. Like two hands didn't like the left hand and the right hand didn't meet, and it just
you can't figure out what the tone is supposed to be
because at the end, so they infiltrate a base, and it's supposed to be like so difficult to infiltrate, and they do it, and they rescue little child Princess Leia, and then they escape, and they leave the bases in lockdown, and they just walk through.
They walk through with the little girl in his coat
in a big jacket, walking past hundreds of fucking people.
Is this written by a 12-year-old?
That's what you do in
it's so bad
in like an action comedy where you're like, haha.
Like, I don't think I've watched something that literally pissed me off. And it shouldn't matter that much because this is like, it's a bullshit series about Obi-Wan. Who cares? But it's like, to people who actually kind of give a fuck about Star Wars, it's like, this is just, it's so bottom of the barrel. It's so garbage.
I think I've really just come to terms with the fact that Star Wars is not an event anymore. It's a thing.
It's a product.
It's a thing to put on Disney Plus.
Yes.
To get people to stay subscribed or to resubscribe.
Right.
Like it's product for the people, and nobody. Like I have a slight bit of hope because Taika Waititi, who did like Thor Ragnarok and Thor, he's doing the newest Thor.
Love and Thunder.
Yeah, Love and Thunder. Like he seems like a pretty good director, and he like has sort of a comedic background, and he's directing some new Star Wars movies. So I hope, and like he's had comments where he said basically like, I'm wanting to bring it outside of like the Skywalker family and like the things we know and do and do
something new.
Otherwise, he basically said otherwise the universe feels like a really small space.
Yeah,
and I'm like, yes,
it's a universe. I mean, this is why I'm pissed off at Disney for getting rid of the EU stuff, the extended universe shit. That packed the universe filled with content. And so now it's like they're all in their boardrooms like, what do we do? Oh, let's bring back Obi-Wan. Let's bring back Boba Fett. And it's like you guys have literally books and you have comic books and you got literally like just mounds of content that you could create something interesting out of. It's just such a wasted opportunity.
I don't mind them eliminating that stuff because it's kind of like we don't like otherwise they're beholden to like recreate it, you know,
sure,
or like adapt it. But
you can make something a different story out of something.
I think fundamentally what the issue is they keep coming back to like things we know, baby Princess Leia, Obi-Wan. Like I don't mind Obi-Wan coming back, but then when they add in it's an adventure with baby Princess Leia and like those two characters, we know where they're going to end up. It's like there's no dramatic stakes when you keep doing these interquels where it's like between stuff we've already seen involving characters that we already know. Like we know where they will end up. So there's no drama when Obi-Wan's in the middle of the big base because you know he's going to escape because he's in episode 4.
And this goes back to me saying like tarnishing the legacy. You're breaking the canon by doing shit like this. You watch the older films and they're all set up in a certain way. Well, Obi-Wan is just vaguely, it's like, oh, Anakin, he was a good Darth Vader or whatever he was saying in episode 4. He was a great friend.
Yeah,
this and
he
that.
was one of the best pilots, and he fought with me in the Clone Wars.
And then there's a vague scene of like Leia doing the message with R2-D2 to Obi-Wan. Like she knew of him, she didn't know him.
Yeah, she says
per se. You fought my father in the Clone
Wars, and now I need your help for this.
And it's like, well, now it's like, well, how do we get viewers? I think people love Leia, right? Okay, so let's put a little Leia, and people love Baby Yoda, so let's make her little, and let's have her run around doing crazy hijinks and being a boss lady. And it's like, fuck off, please. It's so bad.
Like so they want to do Leia and Obi-Wan, and they want to do like Obi-Wan as PTSD, and they want to be like. It just seems like there's been 5 episodes and there's like no plot. It's like Leia gets kidnapped to get to Obi-Wan because the third sister wants to get to Obi-Wan, and the next 4 episodes is that, and like that's the plot. The plot is Leia gets kidnapped, and it's like why did we rewrite this series like 5 times? Come up with this. Come up with Home Alone in space. Like,
yes. Fuck off, bro. It's like they spend so much time with these side characters that nobody cares about. Everybody tuned into this show to watch Obi-Wan Kenobi. That's the catalyst of this show. The show is titled Obi-Wan Kenobi. It's not titled Princess Leia. It's not titled Reva. It's titled Obi-Wan. That's what people came to see. But instead, we get a whole... I think the newest... I haven't even watched it. I don't even want to watch it. The newest episode is all about Reva. And this is the second to last episode of the season.
I mean, it's a very stupid episode. You should watch it because it's laughable, the action scenes in it, but it's funny because
I saw a clip
so
on
they're
YouTube.
all in space. They're always in space. They're all in this like bunker, right? And they're hiding out from the Emperor, and they're trying to figure out how to get their like escape ship to go with all these like refugees that Ice Cube Jr. has. And is helping.
God, he's in this?
Yeah, he's in it. They go back to that base. They go back. I don't like. And the thing is, this guy, they like treat him like this guy has like no character traits. He just has like 8 lines, and he's like, I'm a guy that's I'm Ice Cube
He's like
Jr.
a leader of the rebels.
He's
something?
the leader of whatever refugee moving operation this is.
Oh Jesus!
And like. But anyways, they're like, we're locking down all the doors. So like the Empire comes down and they land and Reva's there and they bring out like this big cannon like they do in I think the Mandalorian, and they're like break down the blast door and they start shooting at it. But then Obi-Wan's like, I need to buy time. So he goes and he has a conversation with Reva like through the door, I guess kind of through the Force. And then at the end of the conversation, she just slashes it with her lightsaber and it pops open. I'm like, why have we spent half this episode shooting it with this fucking cannon if you can just cut it open right now? Why?
That's like not even. Well, it's not even as bad as the scene where you remember when they were with that mole alien and they were on that
mole alien played by JD from Scrubs, Zach Braff.
Is that really him?
Yeah, that's Zach Braff. Anyways, continue.
And so he's like a Empire empathizer or whatever, and he's like, I love the Empire the whole time.
Gotta have some order.
And so, like, at the end, when they dispatch all the stormtroopers, Obi-Wan literally has to, like, try to put in a code for the shield or the gate, and it's just one line.
Yeah, it's just covering the road. He can just walk around it.
And it's one laser, or you could step over it. Like, my God. Like, literally, is this written by 12-year-olds? Is this filmed by a toddler? It's like so terrible.
It's like walking up to a gate. It's literally a gate that is open on both sides. Like you can just walk around. It's like a
toll booth where you go through when you try to get to Chicago or something. Like if you really wanted to, you could probably
you can just walk
figure
around
out a way around that shit. Like come on, bro.
The motherfucker can't hop on the subway, and then he has to like shut it down.
It's just like
why? Why did you have to do that? Also, that whole episode is definitely filmed in the rolling hills of California. They're like, look at this new planet. It's Southern California.
We got some cactus here.
Check it out.
Like, oh my God, bro.
No, but the laughable scene in that, after she slashes the doors open, the stormtroopers come and shoot them, and literally it's like they're like 10 feet away from each other, and there's like 50 stormtroopers and people shooting at them, and they like don't hit anyone. It's like they're like as close as this wall to this wall. Shooting.
It's a pretty small room.
It's
guys.
fucking tiny. Like it's so absurd. Like stormtroopers being bad shots has been a joke before. In fact, they had the whole bit in The Mandalorian where they're like trying to hit the thing. Remember where they cut?
Yes.
That was funny. Like you can be funny.
But this is like unintentionally funny.
It's like they're writing a madcap comedy, but nobody told the director.
I mean, but weren't you excited about Darth Vader? His showdown with Reva?
Did you
weren't
see
you
that?
excited?
Oh,
I watched.
So
I watched.
So
clips
also
on YouTube.
Obi-Wan, when he has that
conversation,
he's like, "I can help you. All he will notice is me. He's after me, so I can help you when you confront Vader, and you can kill him." And Reva, he just fucking jets off in a ship. He's not there. He doesn't help her at all, and then Reva gets fucked up.
Obi-Wan has just been like running from the action recently. What is going on, my guy?
I don't know.
He's a little rusty.
This show sucks.
It's fucking terrible, man.
It's
a disgrace, honestly. It's so bad. It's not even a disgrace, just a disgrace to like to Star Wars. It's just a bad show.
It's like a bad show,
and it's terrible.
It's got talented actors, I believe, in it. Like I know Reva supposedly received all these racial threats, and she's like Like, I think they're all probably good actors. Like, I've seen Ice Cube Jr. be a good actor, but they don't have...
She's bad.
They don't have material. Like, it's the material, though. It's what they're given to do.
Is it a prequel effect thing?
It's like what they're given to do is like her character is like angry and she has this past. It's revealed that she knows Anakin's Darth Vader because she was there in the Order 66. She was one of the younglings that escaped, and it does a flashback to that. And it's like, but how does that inform her character really? Like, if she's really against Darth Vader, she's had all these opportunities. Like, what are you doing right
it's
now?
like she's acting the entire time, and it's like,
what are you doing right now to...
It was her moment, I guess.
Like, why are you so dead set on bringing back Obi-Wan to Darth Vader then if you hate Darth Vader?
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense.
Why are you helping him accomplish his goals and murder more Jedi?
Yeah.
What's happening?
They didn't know what they were doing. They've never watched Star Wars. They've never played a game. They've never read a book. They're just saying what are things that people like. Let's just put it in there. Oh, people like snow speeders, right? Let's put a snow speeder in.
Let's
for
kill
no
this
reason.
character that had 2 lines and it has this sad music in it.
Damn. Oh, that actress, going back to like notable actresses.
Yeah.
She's not real notable, but the lady, the rebel spy lady.
Yeah, she's in
Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
And she's like a decent actress, and she's a pretty reoccurring character in that show. And so it's like, I mean, I talk about a fall from grace, but I
mean, all I'm going to say is, what's his name that played Finn? John Boyega. Yes. He was right to be like, they ain't going to Disney Plus me.
Yeah, you're not going to Disney Plus me, guy. Fuck that.
Mandalorian was great. Mandalorian season 1 especially was great. And then it seems like they didn't learn any of the lessons from that.
Because, who directed Mandalorian? John
Favreau.
Yeah.
But,
I mean, I don't know. It seems like whenever he directs something, he does it right. He does justice. I mean, when he does Marvel right.
I don't know.
It depends on who's directing. If these directors had any type of respect for the property in general, and they had any respect for the story and the canon and the fans and the lore of the show, you make a good product out of it. I'm pretty sure Jon Favreau, he knew Star Wars. He's probably grown up with it. Whatever.
I mean, I don't really want to even bury the director. It just seems like ill-conceived from the very start. Like, I don't know who to blame.
But it's like, how does this happen when this is a multi-billion-dollar company?
Yeah.
And they're known for putting out quality content. Yeah. At least as far as their animated stuff, or their Pixar, or, I don't know, just different stuff like that. They're known for having decent things. And so this just seems so out of left field, where it's like, what the fuck even is this?
Oh, wait, can we mention the Darth Vader fight in the sand piles? Oh, God. One thing that Star Wars is known for is even if the characters you don't like, Star Wars, all the fights are in memorable locations. Think of all the Star Wars lightsaber fights you've ever seen. They're all in memorable places. Episode 1, it's in not the temple, but they're in the energy area of the city where they're fighting, and there's all those laser gates that they fight through, and it's this big monstrous hall. Episode 5, they're in the...
Episode 3, they're on Mustafar.
Yeah. Episode 5, they're in this movie, they're in the carbon freezing chamber, which leads to this big catwalk that's in the middle of the city that's floating in the sky, and it's they're memorable places with memorable characters. And then in this one, they're let's bring back these characters to fight next to fucking piles of dirt.
And let's fight in the dark so we can't see anything, and we can't see the bad choreography.
In a sand pile,
what even is that?
What is that? What is happening?
It was definitely the industrial district of LA or something.
It reminds me of, if by Maple Grove, there used to be this area that was just
they
piles of sand.
That. Yep. That's literally what it looks like.
What it is.
And that's why I'm what is this?
What am I watching?
They couldn't... Are you telling me their budget was so low that they couldn't build a decent set, or they couldn't find a decent place to shoot? It doesn't make any sense. And it's just I can't wait for this to be over, and then so people can over the years just kind of pick through this and figure out how it was made and stuff. I'm telling you, it's going to be so interesting.
I know the script has been rewritten. Originally it was a movie, and now it's a series and all this, and it just seems like it came down with it just has the air of something that's been like just like combed through by like 20 different writers and like different studio heads, and then they came up with this amalgamation of stuff that is just like awkward.
It's soulless.
Anyways, I think we can put all right.
Yeah, let's put
ding ding Star Wars.
Let's
put it in the grave. We're lowering it down. Let's do our salute.
Gone but forgotten.
Oh fuck. Sorry, Star Wars. Sorry, Disney.
Let's talk about good Star Wars again.
All right. So, anyways, where were we? So Luke is just landing in Cloud City. It's kind of abandoned. He's like running around trying to figure out where people are at. Eventually he ends up confronting Vader in the carbon freezing room.
Best scene of the movie.
Yeah. And I know, they have their fight. Eventually, Luke gets his hand cut off. And maybe the most famous Star Wars line ever is uttered. He's like, I know you killed my father. And he's like, no, Luke. I am your father.
It's the most iconic line in film. It's up there. I mean, yeah, everybody remembers that. When you think about Star Wars, you think about that scene.
Yeah.
But
then, so he's out on this platform. Luke's holding on for dear life after basically Vader in this fight. He's definitely, you can tell, like he doesn't want to kill him. First he tries to freeze him. That happens in the middle of the fight. And he's like fighting with like one hand. He's like doing this shit that's very much like, I'm in control. You're not doing shit right now. Like you're going ham, Luke, and you're not touching me. I'm untouchable.
Yeah, the whole time he's just fucking with him.
Yeah.
And that's great.
It's all just like he's playing with him and he's showing him like,
it's almost like he's training him, essentially.
Yeah, and then at the end, Luke's out there and he's got one hand and he just lets go. And I don't know what his game plan there was exactly, but it works out.
I don't know how he did it. Okay, so this scene, I always thought of it like maybe it was like a pressurized thing where like garbage gets shot down there and they just kind of go into these chutes. But it was a giant hole, so I'm like, he should have just fell straight down. But I was like, did he use the Force to go in the little hole, or like, I don't know. That scene it's whatever. But
it's one of those things where
you just kind of turn your brain off.
It's just it's very convenient that he fell thousands of feet into like a nice slide.
Fell thousands of feet into McDonald's Playland.
Yeah. And he slides out, and then he almost falls to his death. And then this is the first hint that Leia is attached to the Force because she senses something.
Luke.
And she's like, Luke. And Lando's with him, and he's flying the ship because this is Lando's old ship, the Millennium Falcon. She's like, no, Lando, turn around. We need to find him. And they find him hanging below the city, half alive, barely making it. And they turn around, they rescue him.
Yeah, this is probably the most iconic cliffhanger in cinema. It's like this whole...
Yeah, this like middle part, this is really like the blueprint for middle sequels going on from now on, where it's like you need the dark chapter, the second act.
You need the dark chapter where all your characters get split up and everybody's fucked. Like
Han's frozen. We don't know
hopeless.
whether he's dead or alive or what's going to happen with him. In reality, he was considering not coming back to Star Wars and only doing Indiana Jones going forward and not even being part of this.
He was originally supposed to be killed off.
Yeah. It was definitely one of those things where like our contract talks are up in the air, so we're going to see what happens.
Yes.
Luke has his hand cut off and he's there. With Leia and 3PO, and they're on like a rebel ship, but they have no base at this point, I believe.
I think they really have no real plan on what they're going to do
next.
They're
just they're fleeing and they're figuring out what to do next.
And it's probably that's great storytelling. It makes you excited for the next film. It makes you excited to see what happens next.
It sets you up for the next one for sure. And it ends with this scene where it pulls out. They're in the windows, and they're all kind of embracing each other.
And the music
main
swells.
Characters, Chewbacca, R2, I think 3PO's there.
Is it the
Luke and Leia?
Is it that?
Yeah, it's like the main Star Wars theme. and it pulls out from like the window in the rebel ship, and it kind of shows the whole fleet, and then cut to credits.
Did they go into hyperspace?
No, I think they're just
okay.
floating through
I
space.
vaguely remember somebody going to hyperspace. I watched this yesterday, but I fell asleep halfway through. So,
so yeah, that's a synopsis, and you've done a hell of a lot of podcasting. So I guess how did we come down on rewatching? Because you said you hadn't watched it in a few years. I haven't watched it. I think like probably almost 10 years.
You haven't watched Empire in that long?
I don't think I've watched like front to back. No, I don't think I've actually watched it that long.
I think this movie for me, it's so ingrained in my mind that
it's one of those movies I know by heart.
Yes. Like I didn't even have to watch the whole thing yesterday, and I still know the plot. Like I mean, that's how much of an impact it made on me. And I will say that growing up, I wasn't real partial to the old films just because my naive child mind, I'd like to see lightsabers swinging and crazy shit.
It's got cool CG.
Yeah. So, but as an adult, I can appreciate this film for the technical aspects, for the characters, for the story. It is one of the greatest films ever made. It's definitely the greatest Star Wars film ever made. It won't ever get better than this. If you could just watch one thing from Star Wars, it'd probably be this for the rest of your life, and you'd probably be okay.
Yeah. You know? I mean, it's probably the best Star Wars thing. I think rewatching this, I don't know if it's just me being dead on the inside.
It's probably.
I didn't like. I wanted to feel the feels and be like swept up, and I don't know if I was 1,000%, but I still can like step back. And I think one of the main hang-ups was what we were talking about with Han Solo and like the romance plot, where I'm like, this hasn't aged well. Stuff. Like this is kind of actually toxic and gross, and I don't actually like it. But that goes away in the next film, and it's not really in the fourth film either.
Well, because none of the films after this are any good. So
well, I think Return of the Jedi is good.
I don't
think Return, like, dude, as far as like scenes in Star Wars, Return of the Jedi, like the final throne scenes with Luke and the Emperor and Vader, those are some pinnacle Star Wars scenes.
All that's great, but you got to get through like 45 minutes of Ewok shit to even get to that. So
like, I would not say it's not good. I mean, it's probably the third best Star Wars movie ever made.
Yeah.
But
I mean, so you're saying from like a nostalgic point of view, you don't feel the same when you watch it.
No, I think I'm just jaded. I think it's mostly a me problem. Like, if we're answering the question, which is the title of the podcast, is this a perfect movie? Like, I guess yes. If we're just gonna be like, you know, basically every movie before 2010 gets a pass on the romance plots for being probably a little problematic and.
Yeah. You have to look past that kind of stuff just because of the era it was in.
Right.
I mean.
Right. So I other than that, like it is a great movie. I can say objectively, I think it's a great movie. I just wonder if Star Wars means the same to me, I guess, is what I came out from rewatching.
Again, it's like what I'm saying is like it's been so tarnished, so stepped on and just thrown in the fucking mud for the past 20 years that it's like it kind of makes these movies, the old ones, just kind of fade into existence. Where it's like, okay, now it's the new thing. Now it's Stranger Things. Now it's like, you know, we have all this other stuff that's great too. It's like, does Star Wars really hold up?
Yeah, I wonder if Disney's like, fuck, I wish we hadn't paid like $6 billion for this or whatever.
Right. It's a dying property, and I think maybe it's supposed to die.
You know, things shouldn't last forever. Think of what other IPs lasted like 50 years.
I mean, Marvel has different. Been like films.
That's different. So. Marvel's comics, like, there was not successful comic book movies till basically like Spider-Man 2001. Maybe the Batmans with Michael Keaton. But those were.
I mean, that was like the first time anybody's ever made a decent superhero film or like anything remotely coherent.
So like, I can't even think of maybe Star like Trek, James Bond. Not. Like that's maybe the only thing. But that's not even like James Bond is like action set piece.
But James Bond never had
it's not a set universe with a
consistent
story.
story.
It's not like a set universe. It's just like a platform to do spy movies from.
He's a catalyst into.
Yeah. I just think there's nothing really to compare it to.
No.
And I think we have to be universal to induct it to our perfect movie list, and I will agree to induct it. And I think,
I mean, definitely
on the perfect movie list.
I just think it's got everything that you would want in your sci-fi adventure movie. It's got action, it's got heart, it's got romance. Romance.
It's got big air quotes, romance.
It's got great characters. Just memorable scenes, memorable dialogue. It doesn't, as far as Star Wars goes, it does not get any better than that. And it will never be better than that. So I think let it fade into existence. It remains in our hearts. Boom.
All right. But our first inscription on the perfect movie list goes Star Wars Episode 5.
Yay!
Until next time, we will come back hopefully soon, maybe in a week or two.
Yeah.
For a new episode.
We'll try to make this pretty consistent.
A new perfect movie. Our first inductee, Star Wars Episode 5, made the list. Hope to see you next time.
And if you haven't seen it, go watch it.
Yeah. It's a classic. People should catch up on the classics. I'm not all the way there on some stuff, so
it's all good. All right.
Bye.
Peace.